you had these, these concrete markers of what you wanted to achieve. Did you have any mentors, anybody giving you maybe some added self-confidence to go on top of what you already had?
I had guardian angels. That's how I would describe them. A mentor, usually you perceive a mentor as someone who's been where you're going, or who can kind of give you a sense of, what the journey will be. And I think my mentorship stopped at getting into college initially. But I had guardian angels who maybe had connections or who saw something in me and were able to create opportunities for me to then gain the exposure to the mentors in due time.
Did you have any roadblocks that you hit in this process?
Well, I'm reluctant to talk about, I think, one of the major roadblocks that occurred, just because I feel that when I tell the story, it's a negative story. But I've been told that there's an abbreviated version that I can share that people would benefit from, so I'll try. I'll give it a go. In the 9th grade, I was preparing for our school's inaugural participation in the Science Olympiad. And this was a state and then national competition. The school that I attended was a math, science, computer magnet school, so it would be expected that we would want to participate in an activity like this, and we'd want to do well because we didn't really have sports. Science was our sport. I prepared for this Science Olympiad with my then best friend, Joanna. And she and I basically prepared all of the same events. It's just like the Olympics. You have, these events, but they're all science. And when the time came for selection of participants on the team, our teacher, our coach, posted all of the results. And on the list of results, Joanna was listed as a team member participant, and I was listed as an alternate. But the scores reflected that my scores were higher than Joanna's pretty much across the board. So I asked the teacher, well, why am I the alternate and Joanna is on the team if my scores are higher than hers? And he said that I really couldn't question him on it. He was the coach, and it was his decision. So I marched myself down to the principal's office and said, Dr. Bennett, well, I don't really understand why, but I'm the alternate on the team, and my scores are higher than the person who's on the team. So, can we find out why this is? And Dr. Bennett went and spoke to the teacher, and after his investigation determined that I should have been on the team, and, the other person, Joanna, should have been the alternate. And so he reversed the decision. At that moment, then the coach quit. Said, I'm not taking the team to Michigan State.
Wow.
So from San Diego, we were traveling from California. So it became a hubbub. Again, this is not the abbreviated version. It became a hubbub. Ultimately, my mother, who worked for the school district, asked me, is this really important for you? Because the decision of the principal had been reversed at this time. And so our only recourse would be to go to the school board to ask them to reconsider. And so, there's this feeling that maybe she would be jeopardizing her job or, creating a negative political environment for herself if she were to push this. So she said, is this really important to you? Do you want to pursue this? And I said, yes, it's important to me. Ultimately, I traveled to Michigan as the alternate. And I think that lit a fire in me, to be totally honest, because I felt, even at that young age, no one told me this, but my interpretation was that they couldn't believe that an African-American young lady was that bright and that she deserved to be on the team. That's how I interpreted the situation. And that then put me on a course to prove those naysayers wrong. So I had a righteous anger, I'll be honest. It was an internal anger, but it was a righteous anger. And so, that if I had to say there was a pivotal moment, that was the pivotal moment for me to really decide for myself that I had something to prove.
I love that. I'll take a commercial break on that point because it reminded me of something years ago. We had a vehicle that we had just gotten secondhand. It was early on in my marriage, and it was making this rattling noise in the front of it. And we brought it to a guy who was a mechanic. And when he opened it, as soon as he heard it rattling, he was like, I know exactly what it is. He opened up the hood and he reached down into it and he said, watch this. And he put his finger inside of the engine and the rattling stopped instantly. And when I discovered, he was like, oh, is this pump, is whatever it is. But I was fascinated by the fact that he was able to put his finger on the problem. Right. And I think there are times in life where we have those moments. And it sounds like you kind of had that moment where you kind of put your finger on a problem. You're like, I know how to fix this. I'm going to stop this rattling. Right? And so it kind of bled right into the next question that I was going to ask you, which is, what epiphany did you experience? But I kind of hear that in what you were just sharing just a while ago. How did that transformation shape you, though, as you began to go into, the different studies, your higher learning?
Well, I think it created a situation for me that it was both a blessing and a curse. The blessing was I was always pushing the limit. I never rested on my laurels. I always took one extra course. I always was thinking about, what's the next level? Is there something more that I can do? The curse is, there's really no rest in that. There's a lot of stress and there's a lot of pressure that's involved in sort of leading your life that way. But when you talk about mentors, every successful mentor that I had up to that point had emphasized, living in the package that you're in, you must be twice as good. You must not have any deficiencies or weaknesses because they will be amplified. As good as you can possibly be, you need to be. And you have to be on all the time. And that's just to get your foot in the door.
Thanks for watching, Dream Warriors. Click on the very next video to get even more insight from the journey of this expert as they help you on your journey towards success. Thanks again.